Welcome to the Principles of Performance podcast, where we discuss how to optimize your health, fitness, and performance. Drawing on decades of experience of working as coaches, consultants, and trainers to top performers, athletes, and teams from professional sports to top universities to the U.S. military, Eric DeGatti and Mike Perry discuss topics and strategies of how to perform at your highest level and be your very best. Join us and our friends and colleagues who are leaders in the fitness and performance industry as we investigate and challenge the most popular training, nutrition, lifestyle, and recovery protocols. And away we go. Here we are at the Principles of Performance podcast. I am your host, Eric DeGatti, along with my friend and co-host, Mike Perry. Now, Mike, we've been having a discussion lately about, the younger generation of trainers and how they don't understand or appreciate or even know some of the legends that we kind of grew up kind of admiring as we came up in the craft. And we're going to start gradually introducing them to those guys because we got one of them here today.
Yeah, no, we've got the man, the myth, Dan John. So when I first met Dan, it was at my level 2 RKC. Dan was my coach. And Dan, your hip was as jacked up as it could be before you got that surgery. I can't remember how close like that last RKC2 was until you got that surgery, but you came in and you taught us how to swing kettlebells, and it was an awesome transformative weekend. And I know you were hurting like hell all weekend, but man, that was a lot of fun. And man, I've been following you ever since and learning from you directly and indirectly. So I'm pumped to have Dan on today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Hey, I lost contact for a few seconds, but it's all fixed. It's just that I did push a button, but we're all good. I apologize for missing anything.
No, nothing you missed at all. And so what I'm going to do is before we kick off our first question here is for the uninformed and people who live under a rock, I'm going to introduce you to who Dan John actually is. He's an elite level strength and weightlifting coach who's spent his life with one foot in the world of lifting and throwing and the other in academia. He's an all-American discus thrower, and he holds the American record in the Weight Pentathlon and has also competed at the highest levels of Olympic lifting and the Highland Games. And now he gives workshops around the world, writes books, hosts the Dan John podcast, and works with private clients from all walks of life, including professional athletes and military personnel. So I'm going to dive right in, Dan. And since you've been doing this a long time and you've kind of been one of the pioneers in the field, what do you see as kind of the biggest lesson you've learned in all your experience coaching?
Well, it just one word. It's enough, and it's the hardest word to figure out. I mean, we can pull any sport you want, and you just pull it out and you say, what's strong enough? What's conditioned enough when it comes to protein? What's enough when it comes to drinking water? What's enough? Sleep. Yeah, the biggest thing I have found is that elite athletes and any kind of big engine people, if to get all your dreams in life, you need to double body weight deadlift and squat 400. Okay, that is this thing. In fact, the God called me today and said, those are the two numbers that little Michael needs to do. It would still take me every ounce of energy I have as a coach to convince you that enough is enough is enough. Where's Donna Summers when you need her? Enough is the issue. Trying to get people to realize that it's real easy to get stronger in the weight room. Very easy to get stronger in the weight room, but it's a lot harder to dial down your tension, your arousal levels, get the right heartbeat, have a technique that can handle all kinds of conditions. If you're following what I'm saying, but it's so easy to get stronger. You lift weights, you get stronger. You come back in a couple of years later, you do that, 3 to 5 days a week, and you're stronger. And then you do more of that, and you're even stronger. But you didn't deal with the issues that were holding you back the whole time. And so the biggest issue, and it was my problem as an athlete, and I finally convinced, I have a very good set of throwers I'm working with. And all of a sudden, they've kind of come around to it, is that, you don't win. So you have to be careful when I say it. So gentle listener, before I go off on too much of a track, you need to be freakishly strong to be elite. But once you get to that level, adding more doesn't get you there. When I throw around numbers, I'll be at a workshop and I know that no one at the workshop's ever lifted these numbers, but to be an elite thrower, we know that you need like a 250 or 275 snatch, a 300 plus clean, but not much over it, 400 bench and 450 back squat. To be honest, those are very, very light numbers for elite throwing. But once you get there, driving your bench from 400 to 500, now maybe for a shot putter it'll help, but for a discus throw, it won't necessarily help. So when you're working with football players, they're always, workout is over, they kind of dogged it on the squats, they dogged it on the Olympic lift, they dogged it on the deadlifts. Workout's over and you see them getting ready and they're doing curls and, skull crushers and wrist curls and forearm curls and reverse wrist forearm curls and, concentration, wrist, forearm, more, none of it's helping at all. And that is, if there is a secret, there is no secret, but if there is something I learned, it's is that once you realize what the standard you need, what level you need to be at, once you reach those standards, your job should be to reach those standards with less and less effort, with less and less training. Instead of training 2 years to get the standards, we're talking 2 weeks or 2 days. And that's when you're ready to blossom. And that would be the biggest one. I kind of came up with this about maybe 3 decades ago now. By the way, I didn't invent it. I just, that was the great insight. And then in the last 2 decades, it has just become the clearest thing I know. If you're strong enough, you're strong enough. Yeah.
All right. So a couple things. One, I want to circle back to some of those strength standards. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And then, I would be remiss if I didn't point out the fact that you have a good episode, Perry, when 5 minutes in, you got a Donna Summer reference. And then to kind of follow up that question, Dan, is there a thing that stands out in your mind that you kind of changed your mind on since you started?
Well, yeah, enough. That was the big one. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to always be the strongest person in the world now, unless it's Olympic lifting or powerlifting, but enough. Mistakes, yeah, like many people, I was lucky. I didn't really fall in, I got out of the bench press, 5 days a week idea young in my career, probably 75 when I met Dick Notmeyer and he started Olympic lifting and I stopped benching. I was fortunate. I never really got in. Well, did have that 1 or 2 seasons where I tried to chase the big back squat numbers, and by the way, I'm not at all saying anything negative about powerlifting, but powerlifting doesn't always lend itself to elite athletic performance. You certainly will squat more with the weight on your back, but that won't always carry over into the ring if it makes sense. Now, you're going to bring on somebody next week who says Dan John's full of it because, when I squatted 900 pounds, I threw farther. But trust me, there's a lot of other things in that person's soup than just the heavy back squat. So, things I regret in the back, yeah, I would say the overuse of horizontal pressing, with the bench in the weight room and the push up, those would be big. Another one, and I'm just telling you, I don't know if I'm okay. I'm going to say this sentence out loud, and then I'm going to pull back on it instantly. But the cult of the pull up. I do this podcast with Pat Flynn every week, and anytime we mention pull-ups, the very first question is, I can't do a single pull-up, but you're saying I should do 1 set of 10. So what should I do? Well, and then when I do pull-ups, my elbows hurt. Well, so the other thing the one big regret is I never thought much of pull-ups my entire career. And then I also out of nowhere started thinking they were a big deal. And now I'm back to regretting pull-ups. So horizontal presses, pull-ups, if you really want to get great, get yourself a barbell, get a 1954 Harry Pascal muscle molding or the strength book he wrote. Just do what he said, and you will devour your opponents on the field of play, and you'll have barnyard wide shoulders and wasp waist and titanic triceps and pulsing pectorals and all the other nonsense. But yeah, those would be the things. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about assessments. And there's a million different types of assessments out there, but in Can You Go, you have this very simple 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment. Can you just walk us through the basics of that?
Yeah. I mean, this is a, a book and a multi-hour lecture, but one is, can you stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds? And, somebody always raises their hand. Do you try both feet? Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Yeah, sure. That's 20 seconds out of your life. If you can't, I instantly make a call and get medical intervention. I ask you to go see a medical doctor, because you should be able to stand with your eyes open on 1 foot for 10 seconds. I tell stories in the book and at workshops, but that is the line in the sand for me. If you can't do that, I want someone else looking at you. I want the blood tests. I want I don't know, whatever test they do. Let's find out what's wrong. In one case, it was prostate cancer. Another case, it was MS. But and by the way, if all the listeners just tried the test and took what I said seriously and said, okay, I'm gonna go see a doctor, maybe one person hearing this might have an early chance to deal with something serious. The two are two measurements. If you weigh over 300 pounds, I won't work with you, male or female, until you see an eye doctor, a dentist, and a medical doctor. And it's interesting, if you do that, very often, by the time you get to the medical doctor, you'll be saying, I know, I know, I know. The dentist is the one most people miss. Now, everybody who works with fat loss clients is going to say, you got to eat more vegetables and all that. But if the person needs a crown and has 7 cavities, well, how are they supposed to eat raw vegetables? That's insane. They literally can't. And they're going to slide back to beige food, which is the cornerstone of the American diet. All the beige, the French fries and the chicken. I call them chicken nuggets is it's an embarrassment to poultry. The next measurement, and this gives us our first circle, is your waistline under half your height. Now, since I came up with the book, I've gotten really into the Nordic studies, and oh gosh, I should have prepared this. I should have had my Nordic health book out, but now I use the information from Scandinavia, because the one nice thing about Scandinavia is, with socialized medicine, there's no push from the food companies. There's no push from lobbyists when it comes to health statistics. And one of the things they recommend, now it's in centimeters, but I'll give it to you in English, feet and inches. Your waistline should be under 37 inches. Okay. That's just, something a male should be there. Male or a female, you should be at least have, it's interesting because the Surgeon General, they call it something different in the UK, but the UK Surgeon General said that if all we did was focus on this number, that your waistline is half your height, most of the problems they had in Great Britain would be gone. And I thought that was fascinating. So that's a big number. If it's over that, you are a body composition client, no matter what you said. If you said you want to get, if you come to me and you say you want to do all these things, but you're 6 foot with a 48-inch waistline, and you want to increase your bench, unless you're, a power lifter or something like that, or really, then we're going to focus on body composition, inefficient exercise, and some kind of nutritional intervention. So stand on 1 foot is one. The two measurements, over 300, half the height. And then there's 3 questions. Women hate the first question. How many pillows does it take for you to sleep comfortably at night? If it's more than one, you are a mobility client. Oh, the pushback I get on this. I do yoga. So then why do you need 3 pillows? Because my hips hurt when I sleep. So you're a mobility client. But I do, Pilates. So why do you have 3 pillows? My shoulders hurt. Well, you have a mobility issue. The bulk of the men I work with are what I call twos. They are mobility clients who are also body composition clients. Now, the upside of that is this. is when I start working on your mobility, it tends to help you sleep better. And because you don't move around so much at night. Our gym record for pillows is 9. The guy used to play professional football, Super Bowl. He played in the Super Bowl champ. And his wife thanked me a couple months later because he stopped tossing and turning so damn much all night. Once you start getting better quality of sleep, body composition does tend to change. If I could only give one piece of advice to most Americans, is improve the quality of your sleep. Your lack of 8 or 9 hours of quality sleep is destroying your metabolism. It's destroying your hormone profile. It's making it very difficult for you to live without, shoveling, quick energy sources in your body, which is leading to the problem. And it just becomes that circle. The next 2 questions are only for coaching. The first one is, do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And Mike, when I ask everybody, what do they say when I say, do you eat colorful vegetables every day?
Of course they do.
Of course, yes, I do. Then the follow-up is, do you exercise for half an hour a day? And Mike, what does every single client say?
Of course they do.
Yes, I do. And so when I hear both yeses to that, I say, well, then I can't really work with you because you're doing the 2 basic things I'm going to start off with. And then the backtracking happens. What I'm trying to find out with those 2 questions is what kind of client I have. Most clients, I joke that they all they do is read the signs on the wall. If it says join the Navy, see the world, then I say, why are you going to join the Navy? And they say, I want to see the world. If this is Mike Perry's world's best fat loser gym, I just want to be a better fat loser. They're just reading the wall. They don't really mean what they're saying. I mean, I have whole courses on goal achievement, and it's interesting to hear what people say versus what they'll actually do. So stand on 1 foot, the 2 measurements, the 3 questions, and then there's 4 tests. And with the first test, I usually find out everything I need to know. Hold any plank you want for 2 minutes. And the way to make people fail that test is don't say anything for the first minute and then say halfway. And that destroys most people. And if you fail that, you are a strength client. Most women I work with are body composition strength clients, the combination there. Body comp strength. But to get women to lift weights is very difficult. So what you do is you give them something that makes them hot and sweaty, ideal, and women will stretch and work their abs all day, get them hot and sweaty, and then get them over to do a deadlift variation, a press, and all their dreams come true. Men want to lift weights, but they don't want to do mobility. So I always do mobility work between sets of lifts. So if you do a set of 8 overhead press, there's a mobility movement, set of 8 overhead press, a mobility movement, set of 8, move on to pulls or whatever you're going to do. The next 3 tests, if you fail the plank test, by the way, we're done. But the next test is a standing long jump, and that's a test me. 6 weeks later, I'll retest your standing long jump. It should improve with a good program. We do a body weight trap bar farmer walk. Again, after 6 to 8 weeks, the distance should improve. And then the 4th test is some variation of a get up. Get the person to go down on the ground and get back up. I like the Brazilian get back up test numbers. It's a system that's in my book. But most trainers, all you got to do is just say, get on the ground. And when they drop the F-bomb, because it's so far down there, you kind of know that this person needs a little bit of help. With just a simple get up and get down and get up, I pretty much can clue in on old injuries, lack of movement. So that's my assessment. 1, 2, 3, 4. With that assessment, I can figure out whether you're a body comp, mobility, or strength client, or a combination of those 3. People who fail all 3 tests are 7s. But I've noticed in my time is that 7s are also the most confident that once I put my mind to it, I'll overcome all this and defeat the aliens. And, but it's funny because they failed all 3 basic tests, and yet they just, and that's part, and to me, that's the art of coaching, is convincing someone who's clueless that's not what I mean, sort of blind or numb to their own physical abilities. There's this assumption by many people that all they got to do is flick a switch and they'll be back to their 14-year-old selves. And that's just not true.
All right. So now everybody listening, either themselves or if they're coaches or trainers, they're thinking, well, shit, that sounds like me, or it sounds like, the vast majority of my clients. So now I have this laundry list that I have to cover mobility, I have to cover in their movement skills, I have to cover body composition, I have to cover strength. So now I got this, now I have to figure all this out. How do I fit this into a program? So now you're sitting down with the blank sheet of paper, and how do you juggle all these attributes when you start to put it together? Do you have kind of a checklist you go into it with as far as the basics of things you want to make sure you're addressing?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I just have people do push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. And if you're a mobility person, we find lifts that make you more mobile. The dip, for example, is mobility builder. Maybe not perfect for everybody. If you go to my website, we've got the workout generator, and every set of strength exercises is followed by a mobility exercise. To get, people's body composition to train, you lift weights, and if you go quickly through sets, you'll all your dreams will come true. I find it to be quite simple. I don't, and honestly, if you struggle with that as a trainer or a coach, then maybe you need to, I don't know, read more of my work or something. I don't know. I just think that it's so obvious, crystal clear to me that that's a hard question for me to answer, Eric.
Got it. All right. So let's go specifically into some of your work. You have 2 books that stand out for the
Sure.
vast majority of people that are going to come in with these 2 goals. Fat loss happens on Monday, and mass made simple, right? Every guy wants to get jacked, or they want to get ripped, and then every woman wants to get lean. So that kind of covers those 2 books. Sound like they cover quite a bit. So if you want to give us the quick, elevator pitch on those 2 and where it gets a little bit deeper and possibly a little bit more complex than just less rest between sets.
So fat loss, that book is with Josh Hills, and it's a very good book. No one's going to read it because it's too thick. But I have another book. It's called Easy Strength for Fat Loss, and I made it even simpler. It starts with before you go to bed, make your to-do list, take your supplements, sleep 9 hours, wake up, drink as much coffee as you need, lift weights. Doesn't have to be crazy. Whatever you do is fine. Go for a walk after that. And then after that walk, you eat protein and vegetables and drink water, and you do that again. The combination of the coffee, the fasting from, the night before, the lifting, and then of course, I always tell people that the walking, so the fasting, drinking coffee, the lifting frees up free fatty acids, and then the walking eats them like little Pac-Men. I can't make it simpler than that. And I get a lot of great feedback on it, and I'm very proud of that. When it comes to Mass Made Simple, now, again, sometimes I don't write books that I agree with. And a lot of my books I don't, but people ask me, for American football, rugby, and some special collision occupation people, they want quick mass building programs. And so I have a program called Mass Made Simple. It's 6 weeks, but it's really hard. It's only 14 workouts. I expect you at the end to squat your body weight for 50 reps in 1 set. The complexes kill most. If all you did was the complexes and the squats, you get most of it. But these are hard programs, and you really need, I don't know, that carrot in front of you really has to be it has to be a delicious carrot. The one that keeps going. It's a hard program. A lot of people fail on it. Easy Strength for Fat Loss is oddly easy, but the rule on that is 3 by 52 or 5 by 52. I will never promise. Now, Mass Made Simple you will see some massive changes, especially in that adolescent to early 20-year-old male. I mean, the average is about 14 pounds in 6 weeks. That's a lot of weight on the scale. The downside is, it's an all-in program. Somebody ripped me online on Amazon because I recommend you in your backpack you keep a loaf of bread, peanut butter, and some jelly. For you guys, high fiber bread, high protein peanut butter. That'll make everybody happy who's listening. And jelly, and you make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and you shovel them down all day. Well, the critique was, well, though we all know those are no good for you. Well, I tried cans of tuna and I tried hard-boiled eggs. If you can gag down 3 hard-boiled eggs at a sitting, you're a better man than I. Okay. You can open a can of tuna with nothing in it and just shovel it down. You're Dave Draper, a better man than I. And so I just found the most convenient, easy way to get all those extra calories shoveled down. And by the way, it's always okay to disagree with me, but at least, have the intellectual capacity to at least question why I would recommend something like that. But I do. I want you to walk around with a dozen hard-boiled eggs, and your goal from between breakfast and lunch is to eat all 12 of those. Okay. Yeah. Get back to me when you do that. That is hard. It is hard to shovel food down. So that's why I like Mass Made Simple, but it is all in for 6 weeks. You really can't do much else for 6 weeks. And, somebody said, oh, well, yeah, I put on 14 pounds, but 2 of them were fat. And my thought was, dude, you put on 12 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks, and yet you still found a reason to complain. Those are tough programs. I used to think that fat loss was a 4 to 6. Well, here's it. Maybe I should have thought of this in the first question. I used to think that fat loss was more of a 4 to 6 week attack. I still do in the idea of the emotional and psychological changes. If I can get you to do a really, really difficult diet and exercise program for 40 days or something like that, the training of your discipline, of your free will, of your mental muscles might help. But what I've also figured out is that most people, when you do put them in that stress situation, the body tends to hold on even harder to fat. And so I'm much gentler on the fat loss side than I used to be, and more aggressive on the mass side. Is that a good enough answer for you?
Hey, everybody, a quick break in the action here. Hope you're enjoying the show and we appreciate you listening. We're working hard to bring you the highest quality content and best guests every single week. So if you could do us a big favor and go and like and subscribe to the show on whatever platform you get your podcasts on, it would be greatly appreciated. Be sure to listen at the end of the show also to find out more information about our courses, as well as a special discount code for all our listeners. Thanks again, and let's get back to the show.
Absolutely. I can attest to Dan's programming because I have completed Mass Made Simple 4 times in my life.
Ooh.
And I can honestly say I would walk around pacing before the workout started because I was not looking forward to it. I remember 185 for 50 on my last set of back squats. I'm scarred for life. But I will say this, that program taught me a lot about load selection, simplicity, and it works. And I think the last time I ran it was probably during COVID. And again, I put on a ton of muscle and it works. But again, it's simple. But again, you go through this entire program with the complexes and the presses and the high rep back squats. It works, but it's freaking hard. It's one of the few times I literally would pace and I would be like, I really don't want to do this. It literally screwed with my head, but it also worked better than anything else I've ever done. So with that being said, Dan, if you were to go back well, let's not say go back because clearly it's had its value, but if you were to make a newer version of Mass Made Simple, what would you change anything?
No, no. The problem with Mass Made Simple, and this is something is, even though people make fun of me because there's actually people on Reddit who don't think I know anything, which cracks me up. But I am a professor of strength and conditioning. I mean, I people pay me money at universities to do this stuff, but I'm not going to ignore the evidence of how well it works. Would I tweak a few things? Now, as silly as those bat wings are, with all that pressing, it gives you that other side. The complexes are hard, but it really does get you ready to go. I mean, after doing the complexes, didn't the bench press seem kind of funnish ish,
The bird dogs were a gift.
Yeah.
Dan, were you just like, all right, I'm gonna kick their ass, kick their ass, kick their ass. Bird dogs. Let's just throw some bird dogs in there. Like, I gotta wonder the thought process on that. Or is that the mental break that we all needed?
Well, the idea on the bird dogs was that it was we had so I wanted a little bit of a this so we could ramp up to the next thing.
Okay, down regulate a little bit.
Yeah, just to cool the, and then it's also just a bird dog can be a nice check-in. It's like, okay, if you're freaking out too much, your bird dog goes, so you have to calm down to make your bird dog work. That was the idea. But also too, I'm still a big believer that rotary stability, anti-rotation is a really good thing to have. Okay. I mean, it's just, yay, it's good. It's interesting how this whole easy strength for fat loss thing developed, on the other side, because it is a program that's taken the better part of 20 years to solidify into, whereas Mass Made Simple was a real time, let's add this is too much, the squat. For those of you who have never done it, I just give you, I think there's only 4 options for weights, right?
Yeah, on the squat. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's based off of your body weight. Yeah, like for me,
Yeah.
I started off with 95 pounds, simple enough. 2 sets of 25 with 95 pounds. Doesn't seem
Yeah.
too bad, does it?
Yeah. And when
6 weeks later, you hate life.
yeah, when you do those, because it was just like we're in the weight room and the boy weighed 175, so you put 245s and 210s on. That's too much work, and they slides off, slap on the 25s and go. Okay, he weighs 195, 205 and go. Just simples, clear it up, go. Don't overthink it too much. So with that program, a lot of it was just real time. I was supporting this was off season for the football team, and I had a window of time, about 2 windows of time every year to do a mass building program. But that's only 6 weeks. In the high school setting I was in, and it worked out well because the thing, if you really want to do it the best, Mass Made Simple, wrestle on your high school wrestling team for 4 months. And then the Monday after wrestling, you go into Mass Made Simple. So you've been driving your body fat, your body weight, body fat down for a long time. And then we release those brakes. And we're doing, that, like you said, we're doing 95 pounds. The wrestlers are like, that's nothing, coach. You don't know who I am, and then, Monday and then Thursday, maybe we're doing, whatever, the next one and the next one. After 6 weeks of that, you'd see those high school wrestlers, they would look like a different human being. And yet they still retain the toughness of wrestling, much of the conditioning, but now they were, 16, 20 pounds heavier in some cases. Oh, by the way, if you really want to get a good mass building program, I would lean out as hard as I can before. I would define the most difficult diet I possibly could. Maybe Chris Shooter's a velocity diet, maybe a warrior diet, 1 meal a day kind of thing. Really, really find a bear of it. Something as traditional as an Atkins or the 2-week induction, just something that's really kind of like, I mean, by the way, I don't find low carb hard at all. That's, if I'm eating a big steak and eggs, I'm not going to be going, whoa, it's me, where's my cupcake, but But if you lean out on a rough diet before Mass Made Simple, you'll get that kind of the same sense of that what happened with the wrestlers. Yeah, and probably the same would be true about too bad. Most Americans now are spending 30, 40 years bulking up before that diet. So that probably is not a great idea, but yeah, it would make sense. We used to call it back in the 60s, softening up for definition. So if you had 4 months to get ready for a bodybuilding contest, you just might spend a month getting as strong as you can in the weight room, get all your numbers up as high as you can, and be kind of lazy on diet, literally soften up. So when you flip that switch and say, okay, now I'm going to go, zero carb for 3 months, and I'm adding some cardio, and I'm doing circuit training, PHA or whatever. You come in with the mindset of, I'm a happy boy, and now I go for it. So yeah, so there is a value in short, opposite direction things.
Absolutely. So, all right. So as far as programming, as we sort of dig a little bit deeper, let's talk about easy strength and greasing the groove and these ideas of a sort of a very simple based style of programming. Talk about how those ideas of greasing the groove and easy strength have made an impact on your training in general.
Oh, well, it is. I have a phrase from my administrative years: repetition is the mother of implementation. But repetition is my favorite coach. The more reps you get in, today we had a visitor to our track practice, and one of the things she noted right away, she's never seen throwers throw so much, because my throwers throw more than most throwers throw. We throw a lot because I think that you learn by repetition. I'll give you a good example. On a typical keyboard, where's the letter B?
Right in the center.
Okay, most people have to think and go, here's what they do. Because your brain doesn't have the information anymore. Well, it does, but the nervous system knows what to do. So easy strength and greasing the groove is the same way you become a superior in playing the guitar, the piano, heck, even chess. You become a better chess player the more times you see certain openings. It's repetition. So when it comes into the weight room, many people have forgotten the value of getting those reps in. So what easy strength is, and the variation I like the best, 5 days a week. You go in 5 days a week and you do the exercises, 3 sets of 3, 5 sets of 2, 2 sets of 5, doesn't matter. Let's just stick with the simple one. We'll go 5 days a week, 3 sets of 3. Well, at the end of the week, 5 times 3, that's 15 sets of 3. And you vary the weights by how you feel. Well, and maybe today I don't feel very good, and so on. It's, I have some puny weight like 405 in the bench press, some embarrassing number like that. I'm just messing with you. That's
That's my warm up.
Yeah, me too. But you get in there and you go 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest. You come back the next day, and if the bar feels light, you go heavier. If the bar feels too heavy, you screwed up somehow. And you got to do what you got to do. By the end of the week, you've greased in there, was it 45 fairly heavy reps in a week. Now, if you did that in one workout, everyone would say you're an idiot. But how do you get better at typing? You type every day. How do you get better at swimming? You swim more. Once you learn how to ride a bicycle, you tend to remember how to ride a bicycle. And it's just basically the way learners learn. Greasing the groove is a little different. You could use it. I do have one person experimenting, and I do have a friend who did this, where you, with the Olympic lifts, you squat, snatch, and you front squat three sessions a day. And the idea is you never miss. Okay, I can't repeat that enough. You can never miss on these programs. You've got to make every lift. If you're not sure, lighten up. Don't follow some plan sent to you by somebody online. If it says that you have to snatch 200 pounds on the piece of paper, but you don't got it in you. You put the bar to 135 and you make the damn lift, because you want to come back and do it again, come back and do it again, and just keep layering on those successful reps. So greasing the groove is more short bouts a day. Easy strength would be multiple training sessions per week, always staying within your limits, keeping your perceived exertion at a place that you can repeat today, tomorrow, and forever. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So early on, you jumped into right away about some strength standards. And so you have an incredible list of some strength standards that you look at for male and or female. And we reference them quite a bit in our own courses. And so if you had, and they're not all weight dominant, like your get up is with a cup of water, right? With that, if you had to pick like 3 or 5 for the coach starting out to say, like, here's some low hanging fruit strength standards that you would kind of look to get, what would those be?
Well, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. Let's just give you some silly numbers, and they might not have any value, but I think let's just stick with the push up. I like the hand release push up, or what we call T push ups at my gym. You come down, you put your hands out, you bring your hands back underneath, and you do a push up. Come down, hands out, push up. Something as simple as that. For a woman, it'd be nice to be at 1 to 3 of those. With a gentleman, I would say 10. Okay. We didn't lose anything there. Right, that's fine. Maybe in the pole, a suspension trainer. I got a better one for you. Forget that. Hang for 30 seconds, male or female. Hang straight arm for 30 seconds. Okay. Squat, drop down with any load at all. Show the goblet squat, bottom positions, and then stand back up. Pretty, just being able to demonstrate you can get into the position. By the way, the bulk of the people I work with can't do that. It's a real sticking point. And they're also the same people who have 12 pillows at night. And they also, and they complain about their lower back, and it's once you lose mobility or flexibility here, the leg bone's connected to the backbone, everything's connected. The hinge is the toughest one. I would suggest, let's just throw out a quick one, deadlift body weight. Okay. I mean, I think that's reasonable. And then the one I usually use with people is, you ought to be able to pick up your body weight and walk with it. You can use a trap bar, pick up your body weight and walk with it. And then people say, how far? Well, left, right is walking with it, and then over time, you try to get 10 steps or 20 steps. I have these standards. I do like this one a lot. Sorry, this is the Turkish get up with the half glass of water above it. That's a great one. And it's funny because when people get wet, it's funny. It's just funny. People get wet, they lose their mind. But if you're just to do a few of those, like I don't know, hang for 30 seconds, sit at the bottom of a goblet squat for 30 seconds, and then stand up. Standing long jump your height. So I'm 6 foot. I should be able to standing long jump my height. Pick up my body weight with a trap bar and move it a few feet. The thing I like about, and then the get up with the water. The thing I like about those standards is when somebody asks me, why do you have that standard? Why hang? Well, because if there's a flood and you're hanging from a bridge and you can hold on 30 seconds, you're giving me 30 seconds to go save your life. If you can't, what about that long jump one? Well, if there's a rattlesnake right next to your foot, it gives you a chance to get out of the way. If you trip, it gives you a little bit more explosive power to maybe save your face, save your body, prevent terrible injuries. So those would be just, and in my workshops, I call that, hang on to this as long as you can standards. I'm 67, so, this it's going to get a little tough here, but, in my age cohort, the most dangerous thing in the home is the floor. And, I think, Mike, you might know that, what killed Tiffany was a fall. And, when you spend your adult career teaching people how fall protection and falling and, and you lose someone like, Tiffany, to a fall, it's very difficult. It is very difficult. So, um, it's just a good reminder about the importance of everybody checking in, making sure you can do these things, because, you leave behind my daughters, and, they're, you know, Lindsay's, Lindsay's expecting a baby in August, and, it'd be nice for people to be around to see that kind of thing. So that's why I think these standards are so important. So a part of it is so that you can look, I learned this from Mike when we were at the assert.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Mike, I was trying to teach, and the whole time Mike was behind me going through his
No,
room.
my shoulder was hurt. I was trying to, I needed Advil. That's what I needed.
But the truth is, as great as it is to have the powerful pythons of destruction, it's also really important to be able to, you know, save yourself for a few seconds, or put yourself in a situation that you have a little bit of leeway in your survival. I always tell people, thrive before survive. But when you get to the point that all you're thinking about is survival, it's not a real good place to be.
Yeah, no, I can honestly say that I know what that feels like. So,
Yeah.
let me ask you this, Dan, if you could, and this is something Eric usually asks, but I'm gonna steal his thunder right now. If you had a megaphone and you could speak to the world right now and give them a 1 minute piece of advice on how to live a long and healthy mobile life, what would that 1 minute conversation look like?
Well, when you get my emails, I'm going to pull it up and I'll read it to you directly. When you get my emails, I always have this little line in there. Okay, are you ready?
At the bottom.
Yeah,
I know where you're going with this, but
it's
I want you
great.
to say it anyways.
I was actually going to add that to our questions today, but I'm glad you brought it
I
up.
would love it if you had added your question, but every time I always, oh, sorry. Of course, now I can't find it. That now I'm, because I'm, kind of. Oh, I'll email you guys. No, it's already in there. So every time I email at the bottom, it says this. It says, it's it's somebody asked me to summarize everything I've learned in my, what is this now, 6 decades in the weight room. 6 decades in the weight room. Huh. Okay. Make a difference. Live, love, laugh. Balance work, rest, play, and pray. Enjoy beauty and solitude. Sleep soundly. Drink water. Eat veggies and protein. Walk. Wear your seatbelt. Don't smoke. Floss your teeth. Put weights overhead. Pick weights up off the ground. Carry weights. Reread great books. And say thank you. And I actually stand by that. I really do. That is, my athletes think it's funny because, we'll get some new person will ask me what to do in the weight room, and I'll say, well, you should pick up heavy weights, put them over your head and carry. And well, is it any more scientific than that? And I go, well, did you ever do that carry part? No. Well, there you go. You thought you knew everything, but you never did a farmer walk or a suitcase carry. Those would be the things I would. The big one there, say thank you. That's a big one. This is going to sound strange, but a lot of people, like on Reddit, pick fun of me. It's in this kettlebell area, and they're really good group, but they got some real. It's funny because the one person got called out, like everybody. Dunning-Kruger effect. Do you guys know what that is? Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah,
Yep.
unfortunately, we see it every time. See it every day.
Yeah. So the Dunning-Kruger effect. Somebody who knows absolutely nothing about kettlebells, uh, 2 or 3 months later, they are attacking me, Pavel, uh, John Duquesne, Mike Perry. Of course, that's everyone does that. But
And that's just in his house.
yeah,
That's just locally.
and that none of us know anything, and then I'll look up them, and it's pretty, like the one guy, it's pretty clear he's on, let's just say he takes more than supplements. Okay, he takes a little bit, yeah, and this stuff happens, and it just and one of the things that's really helped me is that every time I read that kind of nonsense, especially when it's pointed at me, um, the first thing I realize, first off, I do the exact opposite of what they say. They get on me because I answer questions too long. And my thought is, well, tough. When someone sends me an email to my podcast, I instantly assume that this person would like some help, and I want to give them the best answer I can. I don't, you know, I don't send them to my books. I don't send them to this or that. I just, you know, I answer the question. Sure, I'll reference my books and I'll reference hell. I mean, I mean, I have a pretty good strength and conditioning library, and that's only part of it. And it goes all the way. Uh, I mean, I can reference books all day. I got a really famous fitness writer coming to spend time with me tomorrow. I mean, I got a good group of people. So I am going to answer their questions fully and intelligently. But the other thing I'm also going to do is I'm going to answer it with kindness. And I'm going to actually think that the person asking the question wants to improve or wants to deal with this issue in their life. Sometimes the questions are very sad. We had one recently about a young man who found out 2 weeks before he got married that his, yeah, let's just say there was some unfaithfulness issues. And, you know, he asked an honest question. He asked, you know, how do you get over that? And I thought, and in fact, the guy who sends me the questions, Ozzy, said, you don't have to answer this one. I thought, well, this is the most important question I've seen on the podcast in months. It's not whether to use a 20 or 24 kilo bell. This is a fellow human person, you know, walking through a tough time in life. So the number one thing I would say is be kinder. And kindness is gone. And what cracks me up is this Friday I have to go to a funeral. It's my cousin Bill died. And I notice I say this sentence a lot when I talk online. Bill, who was a Vietnam War veteran, I'll talk about my brother Gary, who's a disabled American veteran from Vietnam. My brother Ray, who's a disabled American from Vietnam. My brother Rich, who served our army. My brother Phil, who's no longer with us, but was special forces and did some things. My dad, who got torn apart in World War II. And all these real macho guys say all this crap, but they never say the sentences I just said. They never say that their brothers got blown up. They never say that their cousins fought in wars. They never said that everyone's all macho online and all this, I'll say armpit scratching, but you know what I'm saying. But they don't ever say that. And I am not going to allow the bullies to take over. I'm going to fight the bullies with kindness.
Well, kudos to that. And that is if you should get on Dan's email list, because that alone is a great reminder. And it's a pretty comprehensive life program list to follow and go through. And so trying to follow that up is going to be pretty tough. But I do have one
Yeah,
other
where
question.
do we go from here, man?
Yeah,
What do we talk about? Like
my
you know what
question
I
on
mean, the
my
weather?
question on injury prevention kind of pales a little bit into the on that one, Dan. But I do need, because it's one of those situations where it is one of those areas where there's a lot of hot debate on what we can actually do to prevent injuries or make somebody more safe and durable and more resilient, and use a term called armor building. So kind of talk a little bit about like how much of a role we can play, because I would still attest that we can play a pretty big role. Now, I can't stop, from a 300-pound guy from rolling on your ankle on an offensive line, or a helmet going into your knee, or getting checked into the boards. Those kind of things are just part of what you signed up for. But there are certain things we can do, and at the very least, we can make sure that we're not the ones contributing to it. Like when I talk about injury prevention, I always kind of use the analogy of people say, well, you could walk out and get hit by a bus tomorrow. And I said, well, yeah, but I'm not going to be the one pushing you in front of it. Right. So as a coach, like, what can we do to make sure that at the very least, we're not hurting them, and at the very best, we're putting them in the best situation so they can be as durable and resilient as possible?
So it's funny, you kept saying the role of the coach, and actually the role is the first thing I go to. I don't think we do a very good job coaching break falling, fall prevention, rolling, tumbling. So I was hired by a school as the head strength coach, and one of the reasons was because they had massive shoulder injuries. And they were convinced it was because the coach before me did too much bench pressing. Now, they did a lot of bench pressing, but then I asked about the injuries, and it was running backs reaching for the ground while being tackled. So I instituted, and I'm a big fan of tumbling. So I would say you start off with injury prevention by teaching people that the floor is to learn how to roll, to break fall. If I'm getting tackled by you two, I'm not going to stick my finger in the ground to try to stop me from being tackled. I'm going to roll with the ground and and yeah, I might lose my breath for a second when you two fall on me, but my shoulder, my pinky, my wrist, my elbow are going to be fine. So I start first with tumbling, and tumbling is a lost art. I don't know why coaches don't coach it more. Now, some of it was stupid. I remember when I played football, we used to do these thing called monkey rolls. But even now, I look back on it and listen, if that got me out of one injury, that's one injury I didn't have to recover from. From there, I mean, I'm not a big believer in doing the little stretchy things and where I don't like any of that. I like you said, if someone 300 pounds hits me in a certain place, that little stretchy band isn't going to make a difference. But I do believe still, and I got this from wrestling. When I wrestled the first 2 weeks, my nose has been broken 6 times. That's a fake tooth I've had. You guys, I don't know if you can see it, but I've had 3 surgeries on my face. By the way, this is how bad the doctors are. 3 surgeries on my face, and this is as good as I can look. I mean, come on, people, do a better job than that. But I've had 3 surgeries to help. So, and this is the coolest one. I can breathe through my right nostril almost now at age 67, which I haven't been able to do since 4th grade because I had a little procedure done, which is nice. But so when I would wrestle, after the first day of wrestling, I always walked around the campus with wet toilet paper stuffed up my right nostril because it always bled out. So I was always bleeding out my right nostril and I'd stuff toilet paper up it. After about 2 weeks, my nose stopped bleeding because my face got armored up. If you've never been on a judo mat, you roll around, you'll wake up the next day and you'll be like abrasioned all over your body. But 6 weeks later, they're not there. Well, that to me is what armor building is. So there are some exercises that I think help. My running backs told me that double kettlebell cleans felt like what they felt running through, that we were a veer team. So they got the ball right down, right down the pipe all the time. They said that's what it feels like, running down, running in the gap, the holes. Depending on what your numbering system is, the 4-hole, the 6-hole, whatever it is. And that's the word when they said it, I was like, and that's where the word armor building came from, was the phrase doing double kettlebell cleans felt like what they felt in game time. So with that, we then added the original armor building programs were double kettlebell cleans and double kettlebell front squats combined. Later added the press for the RKC graduation, and now it's known as the armor building program. But there are certain exercises that seem to help. Weirdly, for me personally and others, snatch grip deadlifts build my armor up. I think it's because that arm is just out there in space, and so my body has to kind of, since my arm is way over there, my body has to kind of invent a knitted system over there. Otherwise, my arms will rip off, which never has happened to me. So tumbling, the armor builder complex, snatch grip deadlifts, for some Zercher squats seem to help a lot because but that's pretty specific. But what you get out of Zercher squats is that massive abdominal pressure that allows you to what I call anaconda strength. It allows you to counter things. And if you have enough anaconda strength, when you're getting pushed, this whole section of your body can be part of the system pushing back versus just being a whole bunch of moving pieces. So that's what armor building is. Yeah. And I do think you can build it. I do think you can improve on it. Will it prevent injuries? Well, yeah, because once we started doing the tumbling, the shoulder injury curse disappeared, but that's unmeasurable. You can't measure something that didn't happen. So there are aliens whizzing past the universe all the time, but since they keep missing us, we can't prove that they exist. You know what I'm saying? You can't prove something that didn't happen. I know that sounds like a weird example, but you can't just because all the shoulder injuries. I mean, I am going to pat myself on the shoulder and say I'm the reason, but maybe we just lucked out. We had for those of you who don't coach, injuries do come in weird waves. Like you might not have a hamstring pull for a decade, and then one season you'll have 3 or 4. Sometimes you can go back and look and say, we stopped doing, and there'll be an exercise you stopped doing, or maybe there was a thing you added. Glute ham raises was a good example from 1991 when the glute ham raise machine first came out. Lots of schools started adding them, and they started getting hamstring pulls. Now, correlation, causation, but the point, a lot of athletes were kind of getting burned up doing that exercise. And then when they went on the field to play and had to sprint and cut, maybe that extra fatigue or so, I don't know. Maybe so sometimes you might be able to circle an addition or subtraction that you've done before. And then I would suggest getting back to it. If it's something you used to do and you dropped, put it back in. And if it's something you added, you might need more evidence. Was that good enough? Cover?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Eric, anything else you want to add before we sort of start to wrap this thing up?
No, you go ahead right to the next one.
All right, Dan. Well, before we sort of wrap the end of the podcast up, can you tell us what you've been working on and what can we look forward from you in the next year?
I'm trying to reinvent life in my lab. I've got a bunch of, no, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I have a book on, actually, what was interesting about that thing I said, the armor building complex, is that a lot of people started telling me that was really a good hypertrophy program. So I put together a hypertrophy book, a bodybuilding book based on high rep presses and the ABC. So that'll be out real soon, I hope. I'm also working on getting my throwers to throw farther. I have a couple of Olympic lifting meets coming up in the next little bit. I'm trying to train for. I'm still trying to help people. So I got this program called Easy Strength, and almost every day a question comes up, and I realize that the more I answer questions, sometimes the more confused people get. So I'm trying to put together a little, I hate the phrase, but like Easy Strength for Dummies program, but it won't matter because, someone will find fault in something, I have people ask me Easy Strength with body weight, and it's like, and that's just grease in the groove. It's not Easy Strength. Easy Strength for kettlebells, I've answered 1,000 times, and that's just a tough one, so I'm working on the new book, and then a whole bunch of little things that I'll just kind of give away for free. Okay.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I highly recommend, if you're not subscribed to his Wandering Weights, definitely subscribe to that. We're gonna have the link to that in there. And then, as I alluded to early on, is we saw our industry, as most things did, change dramatically when the pandemic hit, and we have an entire new crop of coaches who don't know or really appreciate people like Dan. And so that's why we're really going out of our way to get them on there and realize what an absolute treasure it is to have someone like you on here, Dan, that to pick your brain for an hour and to get 6 decades worth of information, of successes and failures, and much more in the success side than the failure side. And so we can't appreciate your time and what you've given to us as an industry. I mean, we have these fancy backdrops up here so we look cool on our podcast, but if I spun the camera and looked at my library behind me, there's an entire section dedicated to Dan John books that are just all lined up that I reference regularly. So we highly appreciate you coming on and joining us and sharing your time with us.
Hey, this was easy. Always good to talk to you guys. I enjoyed this. If you want me to come back on, just let me know. Okay. I know I try to be easy to work with, but the schedule sometimes is tough, Yeah.
Well, you're a busy man and well-deserved. And we thank you again, and we thank you for listening. And this has been the Principles of Performance podcast. Thank you for listening to the Principles of Performance podcast. If you've enjoyed our content, please like and share on your social media outlets, as well as subscribe and give us a review on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your preferred platform is to listen to. For more information on the Principles of Program Design courses and workshops, visit us at www.principlesofprogramdesign.com and follow us on all of the social media channels where we post new content every day. To save 10% on any PPD courses, enter the discount code PRINCIPLESPODCAST10 at checkout. If you have any questions we can answer or suggestions for the show, you can email us at info@principlesofprogramdesign.com or message us on social media. Thank you again for your support.